All right, so we got a big piece of wood, and none of our saws are long enough to cut through it. This is almost 5 feet across. That's the best I got. So if you can come in and see what we have for length, I can't reach all the way across, but what I can do is work my way around. So if you ever run into this, whenever you're cutting something really big, if you just keep working your way around. So I'm just gonna work my way all the way around the tree like this to get my cut. And then at the very end, it's not lining up because my bar might have a little bit of a bend in it, or my chain might be a little bit dull. So if it's not matching up at the very end, what you can do is come back around the other side and make sure that you're going in the same way that you came around, because then your bar is at the same angle, or your chain the same way, cutting the same way it was before. And that'll connect your 2 points really well, and that'll save you some trouble of keep coming around and start doing like the spiralizer and cutting up a cucumber. That way when you get to that edge, you're not making, you can see right here, the cut didn't match up, but when I followed it through the other side, it eventually came in and finished the cut right. So now we're able to get that piece off of there. And these pieces are heavy, and I'm gonna wanna split them up a little bit, because there's no way anyone's loading that in even a trailer. That's just too much wood. But one of the problems is this is so heavy, it's really hard to move. But something that can make it a lot easier, this is a small handled axe. It's just with even the small handled axe, I can use it like a pry bar to wedge it and lift it up, and that makes it a little bit easier to move. It's not a good idea to use that small of an axe for something this big. So I'll use this one. As soon as I can get underneath the bark. I need to move it this other way actually. But I'm having a tough time getting under the bark. So I'll use a little help. And then I can lift it a little bit more. So now I'm starting to go the direction I wanted it if it didn't have so much darn bark. There we go. So just one guy, I'm able to inch this off the edge. Once I get it off the edge a little bit, then I'll use it like a lever to tip itself over and get it off. And that's what I'm going for. But sometimes you're by yourself with this stuff. You don't really have anybody to help you. And you can see it's getting easier to move the further off the edge you get. And now I've reached that tipping point. So what I want to do is I want to tip it over, kind of keep it on its side so I can roll it out of the way, because I'm going to stump grind this beast. And because it's up on one edge, even a guy as small as me might be able to move it. Maybe. I'm going to see if I can just flip it over. Oh yeah, it's really heavy. And that's far enough away. I'm gonna get one more cut on this, and I'm gonna be getting into a distance of probably, it's gonna be almost 6 feet at the base in this longest section, and just 5 feet or so everywhere else. The very top was right at 4 feet. 4 feet and a couple inches. So it's probably gonna be close to 6 foot here, and close to 4.5 feet or 5 feet this other radial distance. But that's just 2 little quick tips. When you're coming in with your saw, finish off the same direction your bar was traveling the time you came around, so that way they interconnect, and then it makes it easier to get a full cut and you can move the log. Otherwise, if you can't and your cut comes around and you're way off and there's no way to make it work, then you can split with an axe, split your chunks off, remove those, and that'll give you a position to get in there and get that final cut so you can get it all the way through right. It's all the time. You pull out a saw you haven't used in a while, a little bit dull, even sharpen it, you're not gonna get it perfect. it's still going to cut a little uneven. And when you're dealing with this long of a cut, it's really common that those uneven points will represent themselves as maybe 1 inch or 2 inches or even more. And if your bar is tweaked just a little bit, that'll also play a factor. But anyway, that's one way to get that stuff off of there. And for a guy by himself to help move it, use your levers. Bend with your back, not with your knees. All right, so you're sawing, and as you're getting kind of low, the whole point of us doing any sawing at all at this point is to make it a lot less time for stump grinding. I want to get down as low as I can, and over here I'm down just a few inches above the ground level. So right in here I'm starting to run into a place where I might have some trouble because I can see some rocks and there's some grass and a little bit of dirt. So what I want to do is clean that out. So I'll get in there with a little hatchet and just clean that out, because if I go through that, I'm definitely gonna have some problems with my saw. It's not gonna be working for me. But once I get down into that red, because I'm working on a Doug fir right now, once I get down into that red, I'm good to go, and I'll continue to about my merry way, trying not to get a dull saw in the middle of my cut. And that's looking pretty good right there. I'm gonna look for, there's a little crack right here, I'm gonna look for any place where some sand or debris can hide. I mean, we took out a few 100-year-old tree, it seemed like. And this thing is at least 100 years old. It's an old tree, so that's cleaned out a little bit better. I'm gonna not go too far ahead, because once I work my way around here, I want to keep my line and not have to work too much. I want to work myself to death. All right, so our stump grinder had a little bit of trouble, and I had to take it into the shop, so I had to rent one. The biggest one they had was an XTX 38, which does seem like it's going to be big enough, but it threw a tooth at some point, and I didn't even notice. And I'm going to have to take it in, take it back and see what happened. Maybe it was just a loose tooth or something, because we haven't hit any rocks, but there's a loose tooth here as well. So I'm guessing it just popped a tooth out. Didn't check it very closely to make sure it was tight. But anyway, I don't want to keep working with it, because that's going to ruin this channel where the tooth goes in. Anyway, take a look at this stump. So we got that last cut we were talking about, and that's as low as we could get it with the power head. But over here, because I did run into some rocks, you can see even starting out level, I lost that and I was diving down into the soil. So I had to finish the cut and cut it off just to make sure that I'll be able to use the saw for that last little piece without it being completely dull, which it is pretty dull. This thing is, you know, pretty good. At the base, I'm probably going to be grinding about 8 feet this direction. And you can see where I am here. All the way over to here is going to be about 6 or so feet, maybe close to 7 feet. But this is a monster. This is a monster stump, and it's going to take some time. But we got to call it a day, because I don't want to continue using the machine and cause more problems for it. And I just noticed that as I stopped it. So we're going to pack up everything for the day, and then I'll try to get you guys a video of finishing it up. But man, this thing it's a beast. It's a beast, man. All right, we'll check in again. Keep on